Well, the Biden administration is once again suing the state of Texas, this time over redistricting. Ross Ramsey, executive editor and co-founder of the Texas Tribune, is joining us live to talk about this lawsuit. Ross, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the basics about the lawsuit that was filed today. What is the Department of Justice claiming?
They're essentially saying that the growth in Texas over the last 10 years was fueled almost entirely by people of color, particularly by Hispanics and Latinos, and that that's not reflected in the maps that the legislature drew for new political districts for Congress, for the state Senate, the state House, and the State Board of Education.
Of course, these are some of the same claims made in a handful of other lawsuits that were filed, right?
It is the same lawsuits, but you've got some really substantive claims here. 40% of Texas is Anglo, 40% of Texas is Latino, but 66% of the districts are Anglo and only 20% or so are Latino. They see some disparities there and they think that the courts ought to stop that.
Not only does this lawsuit aim to have the court stop it, they want to stop the March primary as well. Talk to us about how this could play out.
We're already in the period where candidates are filing to run for election. The election map is all set out. And if you stick to the calendar, our primaries are on March 1st. I think our early voting starts on February 14th or so. And you're in the filing period that's based on those dates. If you delay the filings, if you say the political maps need to be redrawn and you say that's going to delay the primary, then you reopen candidate filing, you start the whole thing all over again. It's happened before, but we could see the March primaries be kicked back to May or June or even later into the summer.
The other thing that's happened before is we've had lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit about the maps that Texas lawmakers draw. So talk to us a little bit about, this is something almost expected, if you will, because this is what happens in Texas.
It's a perpetual motion machine, kind of a never-ending story. As you say, the lawsuits go on forever. In fact, when they started the 2020 census, they were just finishing the lawsuits from the 2010 census and the political maps drawn then. I would expect this to go on in the courts for a while. Really, the first question is whether the courts think these maps are legal. If they do, they'll let the elections go forward. If they think that they're not, they'll get out their crayons and start drawing and probably delay the elections.
So let's talk about whether or not these maps are legal. When they were being voted on earlier this year, the bill's authors were very, very careful about the language they used to describe the process that they used to draw the maps. They said repeatedly on House and Senate floor that they believed that the maps were legal. I remember Senator Joan Huffman even said she did not look at the racial data, did not even consider it when drawing the maps. Was it a mistake to not consider race?
Well, they're counting on the courts looking at these and saying these were drawn for political reasons. And generally, the courts are OK with that. You can do political gerrymanders, favor the Republicans or, doom the Democrats, as long as it's not ridiculous. But if in the process of doing that, you cross a line on racial discrimination, you don't let everybody have the vote that they're entitled to or every community have the vote that it's entitled to, then you're in trouble with the courts. That's what the DOJ is arguing here.
All right, Ross, certainly something we'll continue to follow. We thank you for your time today.
Thank you.